Houston, we have a podcast. Welcome to the official podcast of NASA Johnson Space Center, episode 404, CHAPEA Mission 2. I'm Ken Appel, and I'll be your host today. On this podcast, we bring in the experts, scientists, engineers, and astronauts, all to let you know what's going on in the world of human spaceflight and more. 4 individuals recently embarked on a year-long analog mission in a habitat right here on Earth that will simulate very closely what it would be like to live on Mars. The analog mission is called CHAPEA, or Crew Health and Performance Exploration Analog. The primary purpose of the study is human research. CHAPEA was developed to enable an operational integrated evaluation of relevant human health and performance outcomes in relation to Mars mission realistic resources and constraints. The data from these missions will bring us forward on the path to Mars in response to a clear mission directive from the President to NASA. This mission, facilitated by NASA's Human Research Program, is the second one-year Mars surface simulation conducted through CHAPEA. The previous mission ran from June 2023 through July 2024, and we followed along with monthly check-ins on this show. On this first episode covering this year-long mission, we were able to sit down with the CHAPEA Mission 2 crew to gauge their thoughts and get to know them a few days ahead of their first day of 378 in the 1,700 square foot Mars Dune Alpha analog habitat here at Johnson Space Center. Let's meet the new Martians.
T-minus 5 seconds and counting. Mark. Mission start. T0. Launch commit light circle. Correct. Here she goes.
Houston, we have a podcast.
Before we chat with the CHAPEA mission crew, let's take a moment to outline their backgrounds ahead of their year-long simulated journey on Mars. The 4 research volunteers that have been selected are very astronaut-like and agreed to participate in this ground-based study in the name of science. The CHAPEA Mission 2 commander is Ross Elder. From Williamstown, West Virginia, he is a major and experimental test pilot in the United States Air Force. At the time of his selection, he served as the Director of Operations of the 461st Flight Test Squadron. He's piloted over 35 military aircraft and accumulated more than 1,800 flying hours, including 200 combat hours, primarily in the F-35, F-15E and EX, F-16, and A-10C. His flight test experience focuses on envelope expansion, crewed and uncrewed teaming, artificial intelligence, autonomy, mission systems, and weapons modernization. Elder earned a Bachelor of Science in Astronautical Engineering from the U.S. Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and commissioned as an Air Force officer upon graduation. He earned a Master of Science in Mechanical Engineering from the University of Colorado in Colorado Springs, and a Master's degree in Flight Test Engineering from the U.S. Air Force Test Pilot School at Edwards Air Force Base in California. Ellen Ellis is the CHAPEA Mission 2 Medical Officer. From North Kingstown, Rhode Island, she's a colonel and an acquisitions officer in the United States Space Force. She currently serves as a senior material leader in the National Reconnaissance Office, or NRO, the Communication Systems Directorate. She's responsible for fielding commercial cloud and traditional information technology hosting solutions and building modernized data centers for the NRO. She previously served as an Intercontinental Ballistic Missile Operations Officer and GPS satellite engineer, and she also developed geospatial intelligence payloads and ground processing systems. She earned a Bachelor of Science in Aerospace Engineering at Syracuse University in New York and holds 4 master's degrees, including a Master of Science in Systems Engineering from the Naval Postgraduate School in California and a Master of Science in Emergency and Disaster Management from Georgetown University in Washington. Matthew Montgomery is the CHAPEA Mission 2 Science Officer. From Los Angeles, he is a hardware engineering design consultant who works with technology startup companies to develop, commercialize, and scale their products. His focus areas include LED lighting, robotics, controlled environment agriculture, and embedded control systems. Montgomery earned a Bachelor of Science and a Master of Science in Electrical Engineering from the University of Central Florida. He is also a founder and co-owner of Floating Lava Studios, a film production company based in Los Angeles. Last but certainly not least is the CHAPEA Mission 2 flight engineer James Spicer. He is a technical director in the aerospace and defense industry. His experience includes building radio and optical satellite communications networks, space data relay networks for human spaceflight, position, navigation, and timing research, and hands-on spacecraft design, integration, and test. Spicer earned a Bachelor of Science and Master of Science in Aeronautics and Astronautics and holds a notation in science communication from Stanford University in California. He also holds commercial pilot and glider pilot licenses. Individuals like these represent, based on what we know today, the makeup of a Mars crew. During their journey, they'll be put to the test by simulating how, as a group, they can deal with Mars' realistic objectives and constraints, including resource limitations, communications delays, high-tempo EVAs, and other environmental stressors. It was a pleasure to have the chance to sit with them ahead of Ingress. There was a lot of energy and excitement ahead of their mission, and now that you know their general bios, let's dive in a little more on who these folks are and what drove them to participate in such an endeavor. Let's go. Ross, Ellen, Matt, and James, thank you so much for joining us on Houston We Have a Podcast. I can't tell you how excited I am to talk to you ahead of this mission. Over a year, 378 days, right? And we're just a few days ahead of Ingress, which is coming up on this Sunday. It's just a few days away. So, Ross, let's start with you first. First, how are you feeling ahead of Ingress? And then describe your career progression and how you got to where you are.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us. I personally am very elated to get the mission underway, and I won't speak for the crew, but I'm quite eager to contribute to NASA's long duration space exploration. And honestly, I'm probably far less nervous than I should be for a year away on Mars. And I'm sure some would say there's a fine line between being intrepid and insane. But I consider myself incredibly grateful to be part of the exceptional crew and just play a role with the massive support structure that put this whole project together over years and years of work. But for me, I'm a fighter pilot by trade, but an engineer at heart. So becoming a test pilot in the United States Air Force was kind of naturally the best fit for me. And in doing so, I had the privilege of working on a lot of unique experimental and developmental flight tests across a large variety of platforms and programs. From color night vision testing in Russian helicopters to human machine teaming with 5th-gen fighters and AI-driven uncrewed combat platforms. So at my last duty station, finished up a tour as a director of operations for the F-35 Integrated Test Force and certified as an instructor in the United States Air Force Test Pilot School.
Okay, and that was Ross, CHAPEA Mission 2 Commander. How about over to Ellen? Can you tell us how you're feeling ahead of Ingress?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm feeling a lot of excitement as we get ready for Ingress this Sunday. I have a strong sense of purpose. I believe in the work that we're doing. And there's a bit of introspection, I think, as I'm thinking about leaving my family behind and getting ready for the year ahead. So I've been fascinated by space since I was a little kid. My dad would take me out in the backyard and point out constellations. And I've just always wanted to learn more. It's just been an endless source of wonder for me. I learned that many astronauts had military backgrounds. So I joined Civil Air Patrol when I was a kid and then Air Force ROTC in college. And that has just afforded me so many amazing opportunities to work on satellites over my career in the Air Force and now Space Force. And I'm so excited that the Space Force has been very supportive of me taking part in CHAPEA Mission 2. So I feel really fortunate as well.
Awesome. Over to you, Matt. How are you feeling and how did you get here?
Yeah, thanks for having us. And I think prepared is the word I'm feeling right now. We're getting pretty close. We've been working hard. Kind of what everyone else touched on. A little bit excited, a little bit of introspection and nerves. I think those are all probably healthy at this point, right before we go in. So how'd I get here? I'm an electrical engineer by education. I worked in a number of hardware startup companies, so always trying to develop new technology. I've touched a lot on robotics. That's touched into a little bit of controlled environment agriculture, a lot of consumer products, so just taking designs from a concept and bringing them to reality. And then I've got this kind of other side that I split my time doing, which is film production. And a lot of people think that that's a kind of a weird combination, but I think they're really intertwined. So those are very similar. Like film is about coming up with an idea or a concept and working to bring it to reality in the real world. So kind of that mix has kind of led me here.
Okay. How'd you know I was going to ask about that? And that was Matt. He is the CHAPEA Mission 2 Science Officer. And now over to James, who is the CHAPEA Mission 2 Flight Engineer. James, can you tell us, first of all, how are you feeling ahead of Ingress?
Absolutely, yeah. Much like my crewmates, I think a mixture of excitement and a bit nervous and trepidatious about spending 12, 13 months together in a box. But the last few weeks of training together have been really exciting. We've been getting to know not just each other very well, but also the habitat where we're going to be and all the work we're going to be performing while we're in the mission. By training, I'm a career aerospace engineer, so I studied that in college, and that's been my career so far. Mostly the area that I work in is satellite communications, and so I've spent my whole career basically designing communications architectures to enable satellites to communicate with each other, with the Earth, and most of the time that's space data relay systems around the Earth, similar to the ones that, for example, the International Space Station uses to talk to the mission control here in Houston, but also working on lunar architectures as well. So it's an interesting reversal where I spent my career designing communication systems, dealing with bandwidth constraints, designing latencies, and now I get to live on the other side of that, where we're under, of course, a very heavy latency constraint and bandwidth constraints as well.
Okay, thanks. You all bring all different backgrounds into this 378-day mission. And I want to hear about, how did you find out about it? You know, there was the first mission, right? And I think a lot of people heard about it once that crew came out of the Mars analog, the Mars habitat. How about, James, let's go back to you. Where did you hear about this opportunity? And maybe tell us about the application process.
Yeah, well, you nailed it on the head. So Mission 1, of course, happened between 2023 and 2024. And I remember I heard about the mission while it was going on, followed the mission throughout the 12, 13 months that it was going, and was reading the reports, reading about all the science and the work that they were doing, and thought this would be a really cool...
Were you hearing the podcast?
I was absolutely hearing the podcast, yeah.
You guys sell the podcast?
I saw him shaking his head, nodding his head.
And it seemed like a really cool opportunity and a really great opportunity to contribute to NASA's Moon to Mars program. And so I actually set up an alert so that when the applications for Mission 2 came out, then I'd get an email or a ping or something. And so back in March 2024 was when they released the applications for CHAPEA Mission 2. So I applied then, and then it was quite an arduous process. We were calculating it's been about 19 months since we first applied to when we will actually start this weekend. So we applied in March 24. We put in our resumes. We answered some questions about whether we like being by ourselves, whether we like working in teams, how we coped with COVID lockdown, which this experience will not be entirely dissimilar to. I believe maybe 3 months later, they put us through a physical test, making sure that we were fit and healthy and able to meet the requirements. In November 2024, they brought us on site to NASA Johnson, and we were down to, say, 20 candidates at that point. And we met the scientists, we met the researchers who will be conducting this experiment, and we underwent a lot of psychological and also physical testing. But it wasn't just that NASA was evaluating us. They were also very keen that we evaluate them and we take a look at the habitat. And we actually had an experience where we got to eat some of the same food that we will be experiencing. The general idea being that if we didn't like the look of the hab, or we couldn't stomach the space food, then maybe this wasn't a good fit for us. Back in January, NASA sent the final candidates to the National Outdoor Leadership School in Wyoming, also known as NOLS, and this was a really important milestone for us because it was the first time we all got to meet each other and the first time we got to work together as a crew. And this was the middle of winter, and we went on a cross-country skiing and backcountry camping trip for about a week, and there were 10 of us on that trip, and we basically spent the time getting to know each other, dealing with a similarly austere, resource constraint and quite stressful outdoor environment, which on Mars, of course, will be a very dry, desert-like place with no atmosphere. In Wyoming, a similarly desolate, featureless environment, very cold, obviously. We also had 40 inches of snow dumped on us while we were out there.
My face right now, I'm like, oh no.
But that was a great opportunity to get to know the team, get to figure out what it's going to be like to work together, how each of us likes to work, how we communicate. And that was really the first time where we got to work together as a crew, which was great. Then we were selected, or we were notified of our selection in April of this year.